Hey, YouTube Smart Fixer here, and let me tell you, ain't nothing worse than a diesel truck that's giving you the blues. If your Ford Ranger diesel is sputtering, smoking, or just plain acting up, you've come to the right place. We're talking about those hard-working 3.2-liter and 2.0-liter engines, and trust me, they can have their fair share of problems. But don't you worry your pretty little head, because today, I'm gonna break down the most common issues, how to spot them before they turn into a money pit, and why you gotta get them fixed right the first time. Alright folks, let's talk fuel injectors. These little guys are the lifeblood of your diesel engine, and when they're clogged up or wearing out, it's gonna feel like you're driving through mud. You see, those injectors spray fuel directly into the combustion chamber, and they gotta be precise. We're talking tiny droplets, atomized just right for a good clean burn. Now, when they get clogged with gunk from bad fuel or just plain wear and tear, the spray pattern gets messed up. You might get too much fuel in one cylinder, not enough in another, and boom! Rough idle, engine misfires, black smoke pouring out the tailpipe like a freight train. And let me tell you, that black smoke ain't just embarrassing, it's a sure sign you're burning money. Bad fuel economy is another dead giveaway that your injectors are on their way out. If you're filling up more often than usual, and your engine feels sluggish like it's lost its get up and go, those injectors could be the culprit. And listen up, because this is important. Don't ignore those signs. I've seen folks try to limp along with bad injectors thinking they can save a few bucks. But trust me, you're just asking for trouble. Running lean like that can burn up your valves, damage your pistons, and then you're talking about a whole new engine. So how do you know for sure if it's your injectors? Well, a good mechanic can run a diagnostic test and tell you in a heartbeat. They can check the spray pattern, the fuel pressure, the whole 9 yards. Alright folks, let's talk about a little something called the oil pump. This ain't no fancy gizmo, but let me tell you, it's the heart and soul of your engine. Without it, you're looking at a seized-up hunk of metal faster than you can say blown engine. See, that oil pump's job is to keep a constant flow of oil moving through your engine. It's like the circulatory system, keeping everything lubricated and cool. Without it, friction takes over, parts start grinding against each other, and before you know it, you're looking at a repair bill that'll make your eyes water. Now, the 3.2-liter Ford Ranger diesel, it's got a bit of a reputation for oil pump problems. I'm talking premature wear, leaks, you name it. And when that pump starts to fail, it's bad news bears. First thing you'll notice is probably the oil pressure warning light. If that little fella pops on, you better pull over and shut her down ASAP. Don't even think about driving another foot. You might also hear some strange noises coming from the engine. A knocking sound, like somebody's tapping on your engine block with a hammer. That's never a good sign. That could be those bearings starving for oil, and trust me, you don't want to let it get that far. Now if you catch it early enough, you might be able to get away with just replacing the oil pump. But if you ignore the warning signs, you're talking about major engine damage. We're talking new crankshaft, new bearings, the whole shebang. Alright folks, let's talk about a little something called the timing belt. Now this ain't one of them fancy gadgets that gets all the attention, but let me tell you, it's one of the most important parts of your engine. See, that timing belt keeps everything synchronized. It's like the conductor of an orchestra, making sure the pistons and valves are all moving in harmony. Now, the 2.0-liter Ford Ranger diesel, it's got a belt-driven timing system. And those belts, well, they ain't designed to last forever. In fact, Ford recommends you get that belt changed out around the 70,000-mile mark. And let me tell you, that ain't something you want to ignore. See, when that timing belt starts to go, it can cause all sorts of chaos under the hood. Your engine might start running rough, like it's missing a beat. You might notice a loss of power, like it just can't muster up the energy to get going. And in a worst-case scenario, if that belt snaps, well, you're looking at a catastrophic engine failure. I've seen it happen, folks. Valves getting bent, pistons getting smashed to smithereens. It ain't pretty. And trust me, you don't want to be paying for that repair bill. So, how do you know if your timing belt is on its way out? Well, apart from keeping an eye on the mileage, there are a few telltale signs. If you hear any squealing or chirping noises coming from the engine, that could be the belt slipping. And if you notice any cracks or fraying on the belt itself, well, that's a sure sign that it's time for a replacement. Alright folks, let's talk about the EGR cooler. Now, this little fella's got a tough job. See, it takes those hot exhaust gases and cools them down before they get recirculated back into the engine. It's all part of that emissions control system trying to keep the air clean. Now the problem is those EGR coolers, they can be prone to leaks. And when they start leaking, it can cause all sorts of problems. One of the most common symptoms is overheating. See, when that coolant starts leaking into the exhaust, it can mess with the engine's cooling system. You might notice your temperature gauge creeping up, or even worse, you might see steam coming out from under the hood. Another sign of a leaky EGR cooler is a loss of coolant. If you're having to top off your coolant reservoir more often than usual, that could be a sign that something's amiss. Now, if you suspect you've got a leaky EGR cooler, the best thing to do is get it checked out by a mechanic as soon as possible. They can run some tests and tell you for sure whether it needs to be replaced. Alright folks, let's talk about the DPF, or diesel particulate filter. Now this fella's a vital part of your diesel's emission system. See, it traps all those nasty soot particles that diesels are known for, preventing them from spewing out the tailpipe and polluting the air we breathe. Now the DPF does a heck of a job, but it's got one little quirk. It can get clogged up over time. See, all that soot it collects, it's gotta go somewhere. And to burn it off, your truck goes through a process called regeneration. But here's the thing, if you're constantly driving short distances, or your engine ain't getting up to operating temperature, that regeneration process can get interrupted. And when that happens, the soot builds up and that DPF gets clogged like a hoarder's basement. So, how do you know if your DPF is clogged? Well, your engine might start feeling sluggish, like it's lost its get up and go. You might see a drop in fuel economy because your engine's working harder to push those exhaust gases through. And in some cases, you might even see a warning light on your dashboard. Now, if you ignore those warning signs and keep on driving with a clogged DPF, you're asking for trouble. That back pressure can damage your turbocharger, your engine, and even your wallet. Alright folks, let's talk turbos and intercoolers. These components are all about giving your diesel engine that extra kick in the pants, that boost of power that makes these trucks so much fun to drive. Now, the turbocharger, it's a marvel of engineering. It uses exhaust gases to spin a turbine, which forces more air into the engine. More air means more fuel, and more fuel means more power. But like any high-performance part, those turbos can be a little finicky. One of the most common problems is something called turbo lag. That's that delay you feel when you step on the gas, that hesitation before the turbo spools up and the power kicks in. Now, a little bit of turbo lag is normal, but if it's excessive, it could be a sign of a problem. Another issue to watch out for is a whining noise coming from the turbo. That could be a sign of worn bearings, which means it's time for a rebuild or replacement. Now, the intercooler, it's like the turbo's trusty sidekick. It cools down the air that the turbo compresses, making it denser and more oxygen-rich. And just like the turbo, the intercooler can have its fair share of problems. One of the most common issues is a cracked intercooler hose. See, those hoses are under a lot of pressure, and over time they can develop leaks. If you notice a loss of power, especially at higher RPMs, a cracked intercooler hose could be the culprit. Listen, nobody likes dealing with engine problems, especially in a workhorse like the Ford Ranger diesel. But the good news is, most of these issues can be prevented or caught early with a little bit of know-how and some preventative maintenance. If you're seeing any of the warning signs we talked about, don't ignore them. Getting those problems diagnosed and fixed early can save you a whole heap of trouble and money down the road. So, have you wrestled with any of these diesel demons in your Ford Ranger? Head down to the comments and tell me all about it. And hey, if this video helped you out, give it a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel, and hit that bell icon so you don't miss out on any more of my expert advice on keeping your vehicles running right.